stunning story. It is out of my hometown of Houston, Texas. So 70-year-old Jazmine Barnes was with her mother, and they were in a car at a Walmart. And all of a sudden, a red truck drives up, fires a gun into the car, killing her. Now, of course, the girl's mother, LaPortia Washington, was driving the car. She and Jazmine and three other daughters were out for a coffee run near a Walmart. Now, this is the mom speaking from the hospital bed the day of the shooting. The mother, of course, was shot in the arm.
I replayed this moment in my head over 1 million times to see, did I cut this man off? Did I make a wrong turn in front of him? Did I stop him from getting out of the Walmart for whatever he was doing? Did I do anything wrong to cause this man to fire shots in my car? And I didn't. I didn't do anything. I didn't make a wrong turn. I didn't get over in his lane. I didn't do none of that. He fired off at us for no reason. None.
Now, she is now out of the hospital. Of course, the reward is approaching $100,000 for the identity of the driver of the red pickup. You have seen a lot of people on social media, activist Shaun King, civil rights attorney Lee Merritt. They've been spearheading the reward fund. And today they were joined by Houston, Texas wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, who is donating his $29,000 playoff check, the wild card game where the Texans play on Saturday against the Indianapolis Colts, to pay for funeral expenses and to go to the reward. Also, Shaquille O'Neal has said that he also will help to defray the funeral expenses for Jazmine as well. Joining us right now is attorney Lee Merritt. Lee, first off, I was while we were when we started the show, I got a notice from Periscope where officials were giving an update on this particular case. What can you give us? What's the latest in this case?
The Harris County Sheriff's Department released a composite sketch of this individual. The previous description said this was more of a heavyset man with a beard. From witnesses who were there, who now that they've been released from the hospital and had some time to rest, they described a more pale, blue-eyed. At best, he had a 5 o'clock shadow, but no beard, a thin man, and so that is the most recent breaking news. And so we're circulating that image around the Houston area in hopes that somebody will recognize him.
Hold on one second, Henry. Go to my iPad. I went to the Houston Chronicle website. We have the image up right now. And again, Lee, you say this is the image. This was based upon various witnesses talking with sheriff's officials, correct?
That's right. In particular, Jazmine's sister, Alexis, she saw this man pull up beside of them. Right before he started shooting, he pulled up to the passenger side while they were at a light, and she did like a lot of us do. She glanced over to the person next to her. She noticed him looking. He seemed, in her words, he seemed sort of ill. He had a sort of a strange look in his eye, but she didn't think much of it. She turned her head and kept looking forward. As they put on the light, he went from the passenger side and drove around to the driver's side and immediately began firing on the vehicle. And so this was her from feet away, looking directly into his eyes. So she was our primary descriptor in putting together this image.
And so he was driving a red truck, and they still have not identified who he is. What specific? We have the image up right now. The image that we're seeing, was that taken from a nearby store surveillance camera?
Yeah, that was taken from, I believe, the Bank of America surveillance camera there. I'm not sure, after speaking with the sheriff, I'm not sure if that's before or after the shooting, but that is the maroon truck. I know there was some discrepancies whether it was red or maroon, but as specific as we can get with so little detail, it was a darker red or maroon truck that was involved in the shooting.
Obviously, the reward fund is, first of all, when it comes to the reward, is that being handled by your law office? Is it through law enforcement? And what is the reward amount up to now?
Yeah, it's being handled by my law office. Initially, that was my only involvement in the case. Sean and I discussed how we could use our platforms to try to get some more attention on the case. When it happened around New Year's Eve, there was very little. And so we wanted to encourage people to bring forward tips, and we came up with $25,000 Then individual private donors started adding to that pot. We got up to $100,000 earlier today. It is being handled directly by myself via Sean King. But the other donations from Mr. Hopkins to Shaquille O'Neal to other people who have generously donated to this family, they are all being handled separately.
And also, the father also created a fund for his daughter as well. What information do you have on that?
Yeah, Chris, the father, Sevilla, has a GoFundMe that is going to help cover some of the expenses that come with these kind of tragedies. Neither of the parents have been able to go back to work. They both are gainfully employed, but obviously with this tragedy going on, they haven't been able to work, and they still have the Jazmine's siblings to provide for, as well as dressing for the funeral, the funeral costs, which are now covered, but there's still just day-to-day expenses that come with it. And both parents have went ahead and retained me as counsel. And so you can find both of their GoFundMes and fundraising efforts being funneled through me, through my websites and through my social media accounts. And generally, if you find it on Sean King's sites, that's because he's cleared it by me. And so those would be the official places that you can give and donate.
So, you first of all, you started trying to help. Have you signed on as the family attorney?
Yeah, so I've signed on as the family attorney specifically for this reason, Roland. We're learning a lot more information about the shooting, and it has all the telltale signs of a hate crime. It doesn't seem just random, both because this area of Houston has a reputation for racial discord, particularly a white supremacist element. There is a very, very similar shooting in August of 2017, where the shooter in that case was still at large. He targeted a black family, a grandmother, another young woman, and a 21-year-old man. He shot the grandmother. He shot the young man in the leg twice. The same way he ambushed the car. It was a white male in a pickup truck that matches this description that we now have. And it's difficult to say that these two aren't related. We don't have anything directly tying them, the two, but this happened within the same stretch of highway within 6 miles from where this shooting took place. And so there's so much going on that I want to continue to use my training and use my experience to guide law enforcement towards hate crime litigation where we see appropriate.
Last question for you. Even though the of course, law enforcement has not said this is a hate crime, is there any involvement of the FBI at this point in this case?
The FBI is working closely with the sheriff's office as well as the Houston PD. So there's several law enforcement agencies working together. And I haven't spoken, or my client hasn't spoken directly with FBI investigators. Obviously, you want to put motive comes after actually catching the suspect. So we all can speculate at motive, but all these agencies are working together just to figure out who this person is. And once that happens, I certainly expect the FBI to investigate him for ties to the hate community. All
right, then, Lee Merritt, we certainly appreciate it. Keep abreast. Be sure to text me anytime, giving updates on this particular case. There's going to be a rally on Saturday in Houston, and of course, the funeral for Jazmine will take place on Tuesday.
Thanks, Roland.
All right, Lee, thanks a bunch. I want to go to our panel here. Again, I think it's important to have federal authorities involved in this as early as possible, even though they have not clearly established this is a hate crime. Because hate crimes are federal crimes, the FBI can also get involved and help a local jurisdiction, Scott.
Well, the state may have some hate crime laws too, but for the independence of the investigation, that's super important. They've got the truck, they've got some eyewitnesses. There were other cars, I presume, around this truck, so they're going to have to look at that. The difficulty with a crime that has no prior connection to the victim is you have a 5 to 10% chance of finding the bad actor. If there is a prior relationship, that's where the police are going to start. I doubt there is one based on what I just heard, but there may be. But then what they're doing with the fundraising, what they're doing with the rallies, that's all important to keep pressure on the police because someone saw that vehicle. If this is a serial hate crime killer, then somebody knows something. And so my hope and prayer is that it gets resolved and that the killer is taken off the street.
Henry,
but we got to keep the pressure on.
Henry, go to my iPad, please. There is a hate crime law in Texas. You might remember, of course, when James Byrd was dragged behind the pickup in Jasper, Texas.
Right.
It was initially vetoed by George W. Bush and then later signed when he was governor. This is a graphic on the Department of Public Safety in Texas where they break down 53.9% of all hate crimes in Texas are racial. But when you look at this number here, you see anti-white, 18 offenses, anti-black, 103. And then multiracial, anti-Indian. And so the reality is, if you add up every other group, Jewish, Hispanic, Arab, Indian, Asian, Pacific Islander, and white, it does not even come close to equaling the number of anti-black cases. Teresa and Greg.
So I actually want to see, and I know justice is going to be served in this. I just got to be hopeful in this, right? But what I do want to see is legislation come from the representative of Texas, because obviously this is an ongoing trend. The numbers are staggering. The difficulty gets harder and harder for families and, of course, members of color. So we can't feel safe to, even go to Walmart or go, to the gas station. Then that's when the laws need to step in. And
well, you already have a Texas law.
It has.
You already have a state.
You need to amend it or something, because something.
Well, here's the deal. First of all, you have a state law.
Right.
A law is not going to stop somebody from committing a hate crime.
It's not.
But at least you have the law. The issue now is, can you get enough information out there, Greg, where somebody's going to talk when they hear that $100,000? Are they going to turn this particular person in?
That's what you're doing right now, Roland. That's why this show is so important, and your platform. So we heard Brother Merritt say that. He said, how can I use my platform? Sean can use his platform. And then you got Shaquille O'Neal, you got this brother from the Texans. This is the thing that strikes me. We're not waiting on the government, but that strikes me both ways. You can't rely on the government. The government has failed black people. There has never not been a time in this society when there hadn't been open season on black life. 150 years ago this year, Tennessee became the first Reconstruction government to go into the Redeemer phase. They're going to take Reconstruction back from these Negroes. 100 years ago, it was the Red Summer. Now, they're talking about lift every voice and sing. Well, James Weldon Johnson also called 1919 the Red Summer. Why? Because they were attacking black people in the streets. 50 years ago, it was after the long, hot summers in Newark and Detroit. And here we are in 2019. What does it mean? It means that our lives are not safe. This white man pulled up and blew a little baby away and shot multiple times, hit the mother, hit her sister, and guess what? We're not waiting on the government. Sure, the law is there, but these brothers and sisters stepped up and said, here's the reward. And because of this show, because of this platform, somebody's going to watch and say, wait a minute, I know that truck. I know that truck. That's why now more than ever we have to have these platforms.
Well, you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.